You've probably heard nature described as red in tooth and claw. I wouldn't rationally deny the importance of life and death in natural processes. However, there's another side to nature, one in which organisms support each other. Consider salmon and brown bears, two species who seem at odds. Does the salmon care about the brown bear? Probably not. The salmon certainly doesn't want to become a bear's meal. But through the act of eating the salmon, the brown bear begins a cascade of events that enriches the habitat for myriad other species, including future generations of salmon. Each species, of course, is looking out for its own interests. The brown bear uses strength and surprise to catch salmon. The salmon uses its agility, intelligence for escape, and strength in numbers to evade predators. These species, though, have co-evolved in ways that enrich the places they inhabit. If they lose their community ties, if they lose their connections to one another, their populations and habitats suffer. In important ways, ecosystems and civilizations are built upon community and cooperation. As we celebrate Earth Day 2026, let's consider how community is foundational to our efforts to protect the planet and its inhabitants. Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Fitz. I'm your resident naturalist with explore.org, the world's largest live nature cam network. Today is Earth Day, a time to celebrate the diversity of life on Earth, as well as the communities of people and organizations who work to ensure a better future on a healthier planet. We'll be talking about that today with my co-host, Elisa McCall, the Director of Science with Polar Bears International. Happy Earth Day to you, Elisa. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Mike. Yeah, happy Earth Day. Great to join you today.
And Earth, we've done Earth Day programs before. They're always a favorite of ours. But this year, we're going to try to take a little bit of a different spin because I think both of us realize how strongly uh, community is necessary in order to build not only support for conservation, but to uplift human communities who are doing really the frontline work to preserve biodiversity on the planet.
Absolutely. Yeah, we see that at Polar Bears International. We are seeing so much strength in different communities that people leaning into their communities to help amplify voices. And a lot of this work coming from empathy, which is such a strong superpower that people have. And when we work together, we really can create meaningful change. And there's really good examples out there.
And I know during the program today, we want the audience to participate along with us. In particular, we want to know what is your Earth Day resolution. So, people do that at the beginning of the new year, January 1, they're like, oh, I'm going to not, drink alcohol for 30 days, or I'm going to take a walk every, or whatever it happens to be. But an Earth Day resolution is something that can have a significant impact beyond sort of maybe just yourself, but it also can help you mentally too. And Elisa, you have a little tool that might be helpful for people to kind of decide what that might be.
Yeah, absolutely. So we all have different backgrounds, knowledge bases, passions. There's different powers that we all share. And so there's this Venn diagram that was created, this climate Venn. Yeah, and it's just a good way to kind of self-reflect on what your own superpower might be or what you might be able to bring to the table or to offer to your community because you can offer something. Everyone offers something. And it's important to consider some different categories. I think a huge one, maybe the most important one, is what brings you joy, because whatever brings you joy is what's going to be sustainable for you. What are you good at? We all have different skill sets that can look very different. For me, I think about what I'm not good at compared to other people, but what are you good at? And then what work needs doing. And so by reflecting on those different categories and kind of finding where there's some overlap, you might be able to think of a climate action that really suits you and that you can be, yeah, just make some real change if you're choosing to do that day to day. So there's a lot of options out there.
And we were talking before we started the program about how, a lot of people, including myself, like when I was younger and I was growing up, I thought if I want to start or to have a career in conservation, I need to be a biologist, or I need to be a park ranger, which I did for a long time. But if you have a skill set, then there's probably a conservation organization or a community of people. Maybe they're not a formalized organization, but they're just a group of people working together, grassroots on the ground that could use your skills. And for example, like the one that I mentioned to you before the program, Elisa, was like if you're good with numbers, I mean, there's a lot of organizations that need accountants, right? So if you have those skills, you can maybe you have a little bit of free time, you can devote those towards helping, again, using your superpower to helping advance conservation.
Absolutely. We at Polar Bears International, we do have scientists on staff, including myself, but there are so many skill sets that go into this work. As you mentioned, accountants are so critical. We need good communicators, people that are great with social media, taking pictures. You know who's one of the most important people for us every bear season in Churchill? Our chef. They keep things running. So it takes all sorts of different skill sets working together to really move the needle on conservation.
And I do want to use this as an opportunity as well to give a shout out to like the person who's working behind the scenes for us right now, Brian Bird, who's our producer for Explode.org. I've never quite asked Brian, hey, did you want to be a park ranger in the past? But right now, I mean, he has these technical skills to put these programs together, so I don't have to push buttons. And if anybody's ever watched these programs where I'm trying to be the producer and talking, they know that the program suffers. So we have people behind the scenes like Brian and so many others at Explode.org working in their own way to, again, to advance conservation, but maybe it's not like a classical way of doing it like you would think like a park ranger or a biologist or something like that. So I want everyone in our audience to be thinking about that. Perhaps you're already engaged in communities along those lines. You can let us know. But if you have a new resolution, if you're thinking of one for this Earth Day, let us know as well. Drop those in the comments. A helpful moderator from Explode.org will be sending those in our direction. We want to share some of those during the program today. One of the ways that we can resolve to make the planet a better place for the human and non-human is to support and uplift organizations that are doing the work to protect imperiled species and habitats. One of those organizations that Explode.org is focused on right now is Orangutan Foundation International, and we're running a fundraiser for them right now. Explode.org's founder, Charlie Annenberg, has agreed to match every dollar donated to the fundraiser up to $25,000. And the fundraiser concludes this Sunday. So it's ongoing right now. And you can donate on the YouTube page for a new documentary about the orangutans and the work of the late Dr. Barute Galdicus. And you can find the link to that documentary in the video description for this program if you're watching on YouTube. Also, look for it in the pinned comment in the chat on Explode.org or ask a chat moderator for the link. Elisa, the idea of community is foundational to conservation efforts, and it encompasses many ways to act. It could mean finding and working with like-minded people, or staying engaged with public land partners, or enlisting the trust and support of people who live with wildlife. And that latter facet, again, working with communities who are on the ground on these front lines of changing ecosystems and human and wildlife conflict. That's a facet of Polar Bears International's efforts since the loss of sea ice is bringing polar bears and people into more and more close contact.
Absolutely, Mike. The longer I'm kind of in this world, I'm really realizing that we just can't have effective conservation if we don't have the relationships with the people that are so involved in what's going on. And for polar bears, of course, as they spend more time on land, they are making more contact with people in the north, coming into communities. And so, as this polar bear conservation organization, if we're saying, hey, we want to protect polar bears and keep them in the Arctic, we feel like we've got a moral and social responsibility to also be supporting now the people that have to live with this large carnivore more often. And so working with communities, listening to communities, letting them lead, just asking what they want, being in a support role, and building bridges as much as we can with us and communities, but also with communities each other, like sharing knowledge together and just us kind of helping make that happen. That has been so powerful. And the more we're working together, like it sounds like a cliche after you keep saying it, I keep saying it all the time, but it is the truth. The more we're working together, combining forces, the more powerful our actions are going to be.
And I never realized when I first started working with, webcams and webcam communities and the people who really kind of fall in love with the places that they see online through Explode.org. I didn't realize how powerful of a tool like the webcams are for organizing like-minded individuals who love animals and places that they see on the webcam. So I think Explode.org is a spot where we can work with webcam partners like Polar Bears International to help develop these communities that are devoted to conservation. And we see that with every like webcam that we have. Like there's a group of people who like that's their camp and they love it and they tune in every day or every other day, sometimes the majority of their day. Some of them I don't know if they sleep or not. I don't know how you do it, but it's wonderful to see. So yeah, that's how, one of the things that I just didn't realize about how powerful technology like webcams can be is reaching communities over the internet and helping to build and sustain something for them, and for the conservation organizations that we work with. In fact, we have a couple of partner videos we're going to transition to now from our non-polar bear partners, but they're still our bear partners. So we're going to play those back to back. But these are organizations and public land agencies and sites that probably not a lot of people thought about. Maybe you were exposed to them before, or you weren't exposed to them before the webcams, but now you've fallen in love with those places. So let's hear from Katmai National Park and then Ann Creek.
Hi, my name is Sarah Bruce, and I'm a park ranger at Katmai National Park and Preserve in Alaska. Katmai is special because it protects so many different resources, including the active volcanism along the Katmai coast and the coastal brown bears that return to salmon spawning streams each year. Katmai protects the headwaters of Bristol Bay, which in turn provides abundant food resources for every creature living here, from mosquitoes to humans. And humans have been a part of this landscape for many, many centuries, and continue to inform land management agencies like Katmai National Park on best practices for keeping this place as natural as possible. I am motivated by the communities surrounding Katmai and their resilience and endurance to survive in a place like this. Winters are harsh and summers are extraordinary. The people who have lived here since time immemorial participate in keeping those cycles going and ensuring the strength of those cycles for generations to come. Right now, at this moment in history, the best thing folks can do to ensure the future of Katmai and places like Katmai is paying attention. Paying attention to what is going on in your local community, your national community, and your global community, and holding powerful and influential people accountable for their actions that defy the protection of special places and special species and special people.
I'm Jen Cardiac.
And I'm Claire Froelich.
And we work at the Annan Wildlife Observatory in Wrangell, Alaska.
The Annan Wildlife Observatory is a special place because it sits within the Tongass National Forest, the largest intact temperate rainforest in the world. It is also host to one of the most abundant pink salmon runs in southeast Alaska.
Annan is one of the only places to see both brown and black bears fishing on the same stream. And that rarity is what makes Annan an extraordinary place to experience.
One motivation for me to work and protect wild animals, plants, and the ecosystem is my undying love and connection to nature and all the wonderful gifts that it brings.
I'm motivated by the moments of awe and connection I see when people experience Annan either through explore.org or at the site. We hope that connection helps foster long-term stewardship and care of our natural resources.
One way people can help ensure the future of Annan, the Tongass National Forest, and all public lands is to get outside, experience something new, find your connection to nature, and grow a new passion.
And this Earth Day is a great day to play a part in building a brighter future. Currently, we're in a pivotal moment when your voice matters. The Tongass National Forest is in the middle of a forest plan revision. You can help ensure the revised plan meets the needs and values of the public by visiting the Tongass Forest Plan Revision website and submit your feedback on the proposed changes.
Happy Earth Day!
Happy Earth Day! Bye!
And again, thanks to Katmai National Park and Ann Creek for those messages. I think I heard in both of them that they're really looking for public support. Public land agencies in the United States, it's a rough time for them. It has been for not just the past couple of years, but the past few decades, and especially the last a couple of years. So you heard Jen mention the Tongass Forest Plan. They're accepting feedback about that through May 6th. And At Brooks Camp in Katmai National Park, where we watch our brown bear cams, the National Park Service is currently working on a Brooks Camp management plan. And I think they're going to start looking for public feedback on that perhaps later in the year. So be sure to pay attention to those efforts. If you want to comment, please do so. A lot of times, Elisa, I think we have to almost pick our battles because there are so many things that we could fight for, but it gets a little bit overwhelming, right? Like I'm not an expert on the Tongass National Forest, but maybe I have some insight into what goes on at Brooks Camp in Katmai National Park. And I sometimes, if I feel like I need to support conservation in an area, but I don't have that expertise, I might try to lean on an organization that's already involved in that and look and seek them out as a way to maybe help me get my message to the people that need to see it.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. That's something we say at Polar Bears International quite often, particularly for like young people that are looking to get involved and don't know where to start. Again, I think we can call back to that Venn diagram and be like, okay, what brings you joy? What are you good at to try to whittle down? But a big tip is just to look for what's already out there. What's going on in your community? What resonates with you? Yeah, how can you just add momentum to something, like get that snowball rolling and growing sort of thing? You don't have to do it alone. It's not all on your shoulders. We're working together, and there's a lot of great things already happening that we can tap into.
And as a reminder, we're still looking for people to submit their Earth Day resolution to us, and we can share a few of those. While we're waiting, though, we did actually get a question from Patricia Bittnar, who was wondering what are opportunities, or what are the opportunities to volunteer? And at least I think this kind of leads back to what you were just saying, looking for what's going on in your local communities and trying to see where you can best apply your skills.
Absolutely. We get that question a lot for polar bears particularly, and it can be hard to get volunteers like into the field because these days liability insurance, all that sort of stuff. But if you really want to help wildlife, there's absolutely things going on more close to home. Again, what are your skill sets? How can you help? I know this time of year where I am, I live in Yukon in Canada, and the snow is still melting. But as it melts, there's all these community cleanups happening. And so is there something like that you can do? And not even just the cleanup part, but then meeting people during those events and then starting to grow this network of people that just care.
Yeah, so yeah, try to identify what your skill set is, and then find out what's going on in your community, and again, trying to merge those two different things. Where I live, I mean, there's a lot of organizations that are looking to again build up the economics of the area once again, because where I live in Maine, paper mills were like a huge employer for decades and decades and decades, and then the economics of making paper changed. Corporations decided to prioritize different things. Virtually all the paper mills in Maine shut down, laying off sometimes like thousands of people at the time. And that, and when communities experience like a loss like that, it's absolutely devastating. But there are organizations that are working to, again, revitalize communities, maybe through more of a conservation lens and looking at the outdoor environment as a place where we can draw people in to live and work and recreate. So there are many organizations that maybe you can lend your hand to in that way as well. So think creatively with this. That's I think maybe my best advice when you're looking for volunteer opportunities. Let's see, we did have one Earth Day resolution come in before we get to our next partner video. This comes from one of our esteemed moderators, Oso Negro, who wrote in, "My Earth Day resolution is to raise awareness of conservation and climate change, especially among government agencies that can influence policies and decisions." And yeah, that's a great one, Elisa, because it's awesome to be able to like control invasive plants like in your community, and that's something that I try to do. But we need the other end of the things. Like if you're a policy wonk or you like politics, I find politics exhausting. But if you're able to like, if that energizes you, then we need people doing that as well.
Oh my gosh, our policy team at Polar Bears International has grown over the last few years, and the influence they've been able to leverage on different politicians in different countries, it's been amazing. And it really opened my eyes. And we've tried to even create some materials for high schoolers on policy because when I was like 16, I didn't know what policy really even was or how important it was. So, yeah, if that's something you're good at or interested in, that can be so powerful. And I think also, kind of in that same vein and in the same vein of decisions we're making in our community, things like solar power or driving EV cars, those can be supported at the policy level, but also we know that if someone puts solar on their roof, for example, like you have, Mike, that there's a higher chance that more people in the neighborhood are going to follow that lead. Or if you're driving an EV car, someone else is more likely to then be like, oh, well, maybe I could drive an EV car. And again, that snowball chain reaction. And the more people doing something, the more likely they are to influence policy decision makers, politicians who want your vote. They are going to hopefully make the choices that are good for the people and good for our future.
And of course, we have to look at, wildlife and consider them in our decisions as well. One of the organizations that's working to push back against like the myths against bats is the Luby Bat Conservancy, and we have an important message from them.
Hello everyone, my name is Brian Pope and I'm the director of Luby Bat Conservancy located here in Gainesville, Florida. We're a nonprofit organization dedicated to saving bats and their habitats through conservation education awareness with a focus on children and community engagement. We house one of the world's largest collection of bats with over 200 individuals from 9 species, and we're one of the only conservation organizations in the world that truly focuses on critically endangered species while also having a very active education and conservation outreach program. What motivates us to work with these guys every day is one, they're pretty cool. I mean, when do you really have an opportunity to be next to some of the world's largest bats? But really motivates us is that we have an opportunity to talk about one of the world's most misunderstood mammals. And unfortunately, these bats are misunderstood, but they're also some of the most important mammals on Earth to humans. Every night, they're pollinating flowers, dispersing seeds, and eating tons, millions of tons of insects. That's why these guys are some of the most important mammals on Earth, and we have a unique opportunity to really talk about these guys and educate a global audience. So if you'd like to learn more about our organization, please go to our website, lubee.org. You can find us all across social media, and of course, you can watch us here on the Explore cameras. Thank you and have a great day.
And thanks to Brian from Luby for that message. Lisa, you and I both love bats. And, when I was listening to Brian's message, I was thinking about how he's really able to share his enthusiasm for a misunderstood species and how that can be extraordinarily important, getting people to reconsider their perspectives on things that they might be fearful of, or maybe they just don't know about. And I think bats are one of those animals that people don't know enough about. And when they learn more about them, they're more fascinating. We understand they are.
Yeah, the more people understand something, the more likely they are to love it and then do something to protect it. And I love bats. Like you said, we talked about Michael, love them. They are so amazing. I actually put a bat box on my house last year. So I'm hoping maybe it gets some bats in it this year. We'll see. But, I'm pretty spoiled working with the charismatic megafauna that is polar bears. And I really deeply appreciate those working with the more misunderstood species. And I was this close to working with bats back in the day, and I ended up choosing polar bears, but it was close. There's so many species out there that are doing so much heavy lifting for the world, like bats. They're such important pollinators. People don't know. So to those organizations that are promoting the importance of these other species, cannot thank them enough. There's so much incredible work out there.
And let's share one more Earth Day resolution. This one comes in from Tina, who wrote in, "My Earth Day resolution is to find more ways to support wolf conservation worldwide." Tina, we actually have a message from the International Wolf Center. We'll share that later in the broadcast, so I think you'll like to hear from them. But yeah, when you can protect animals like wolves or polar bears, Elisa, they can serve as really kind of an umbrella species, because if there's habitat for polar bears and there's habitat for wolves, then there's habitat for virtually everything else that would call that ecosystem home.
Yeah, I sometimes, well, we call polar bears an umbrella species. And I sometimes think of like the polar ice cap as an umbrella over the rest of the earth. And if we're protecting polar bears on that ice cap, we're keeping that habitat intact for the entire Arctic food web, but then also supporting climates around Earth's globe. So yeah, there's a biologist we work with sometimes says, if we really want to protect the Arctic, we should have a polar cod international because that fish, the polar Arctic cod, is so critical, but by protecting the polar bear, we can protect the Arctic cod and keep everything in balance. So yeah, it's all tied together.
Speaking of charismatic animals that can serve as umbrella species, let's talk about gorillas for just a little bit. We have a partner video from the Gorilla Rehabilitation and Conservation Education Center in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This one's a little bit longer. There's an English version and a French side with captions in case you don't speak French. So that's, like me, very helpful to have those captions. And let's hear what they have to say.
Hello everyone, call me Josias Kambal Kamaliro, Grace Education Manager. Grace is special thanks to its approach, namely the community-based engagement, which is about involving the locals in Grawe's gorilla conservation, listening to their needs and concerns, training and equipping them to manage resources. As a Grace Education Manager, I'm motivated by seeing positive impact on communities and gorillas. Protecting the forest secures the future of local and endangered species like Grawe gorillas. It's teamwork with communities for sustainable future. On my behalf, people can still support local initiatives, livestock and farming, boosting infrastructures like schools and health centers, boosting community-led efforts by protecting Grawe gorillas and forests. Every action counts. Happy Earth Day to all of you.
Bonjour à tous, je m'appelle Faustin Mundo Kidwan, je travaille au centre classe Gorilla Rehabilitation and Conservation Education Center, un centre situé près de la réserve naturelle de Taïna, République démocratique du Congo. Grâce à ces lieux uniques dédiés à la protection des gorilles et des Grawe, une espèce endémique gravement menacée. Notre mission est de recueillir les jeunes gorilles issus des braconniers, de leur offrir une grande chance de survivre et sensibiliser les communautés locales à la conservation de la biodiversité. Ce qui me motive chaque jour, c'est de voir comment les gorilles sont protégés et contribuer aussi à préserver toutes les forêts, les plantes, les animaux et les communautés humaines qui dépendent de cet écosystème exceptionnel. Chaque peut contribuer à protéger la nature en soutenant les organisations de conservation, en respectant l'environnement, à protéger la connaissance et à devenir un ambassadeur de la biodiversité dans sa propre communauté. Ensemble, nous pouvons assurer un avenir meilleur aux gorilles, aux forêts et à notre planète. Merci et bonne journée de la Terre à tous.
Thanks again to the staff at the Gorilla Rehabilitation and Conservation Education Center for that message. The thing that stood out to me with Grace, Elisa, is that I think they do almost set like the standard for working with local communities and how vital that is to conservation. Their staff is in the Congo is entirely Congolese, and I used to think that like the colonial North American model for conservation was the way to go. Like you create parks, you create refuges, and kind of like keep people out. But we know that doesn't work. It didn't really work in a lot of parts of the United States, but we know it certainly doesn't work in other parts of the world. But Grace is leading by example in a different direction.
What a beautiful example. That footage is phenomenal. I think working with apes too, they're so close to humans. I mean, to really stoke that kind of conservation interest. They're just such a great example. And you're right, investing in communities, working with the communities that live with the animals, that is going to be one of the most effective ways forward for conservation. They're doing a phenomenal job.
And an Earth Day resolution that's could be somewhat related to this is from Lori D, who wrote in, my Earth Day resolution is to save money every month to donate to our live cams and conservation efforts. Yeah, thanks you very much, Lori. If you have the ability to do that, you have a few extra bucks a month, then these organizations will absolutely appreciate that. And really, and that helps if you're donating to a place like Grace or some of the other organizations that Explode.org is involved in. That helps, again, uplift those communities and protect them when things go bad. Like, in the Congo, I mean, they've dealt with decades of warfare, but what keeps the communities near the Grace Center better protected is their support of guerrillas. And the armed factions know, hey, these people are just kind of doing their thing for the guerrillas. We can leave them alone. And speaking of ways to donate, see, a comment came in from Aiden Arotman. Sorry if I don't get the pronunciation of that correct or not, but who wrote in the documentary about Dr. Gaudicus' life work for the precious orangutans is so powerful. So yes, I think it's probably Charlie Annenberg's best documentary. So check it out. It's on YouTube right now, Saving Our Ancestors. Explore.org's founder, Charlie Annenberg, has agreed to match every dollar donated to a fundraiser that we're running right now through Sunday, up to $25,000. So donate on the YouTube page for this right now. You can find the link to it in the video description, in the comments if you're watching our program right now on YouTube, or in the pinned comment in the chat on Explode.org, or ask a chat moderator for that link. So we were talking about great apes, Elisa, at Grace. We kind of mentioned the orangutans. But we have, and orangutans are a Southeast Asia thing. Maybe we're hoping to get some webcams there, but I want to head back to Africa for a little bit, because we have a video with our webcam partners at Impala Live in Kenya. And if you want to see a diversity of animals, the Impala cams are one of the best places to go. So let's hear from them.
My name is Anne Wambui.
I am Fred Kiboko.
The most thing that I love about my job is engaging myself with the young conservationists, educating them about wildlife, because we know they are the future generations of conservationists.
My most favorable animal is the hippo. I'm called Kiboko. Kiboko means a hippo. And these animals are the river masters, and they are engineers of the environment. So they tend to take nutrients from the landscapes and they take them back to the water. So I found that very fascinating fact.
Having worked as a camera operator for more than 10 years, I've captured different moments, amazing moments on the live cams, including whereby we get to see species of bird like African filmfoot, which is very rare to see here at Impala. We've also seen migratory birds. We've captured ospreys several times here on the camera.
We had a lioness capturing a zebra, which I think got a lot of views. And later on, the story came to a full circle when we saw probably the same lioness denning and having 3 cubs, of which we have seen over the recent months. I think she's doing well, and we got to name her Naserian.
There was a moment where we saw young kids grazing near the hippo pool. They wouldn't know the challenge or the danger of coming near to hippos, trying to throw stones. But when we caught that moment, we had to call them here, trying to educate them, trying to tell them the dangers of that and the importance of not going near to those animals.
Impala Live is a green-powered project. So in our small way, we are conserving the planet by consuming this free energy that's called solar. And we are also spreading the word of living in coexistence with wildlife through our live cams.
Thanks again to Impala Live for that message. I know that they're one of those organizations that's really kind of like doing many different things at once. I mean, they're a research center. We have like the online cameras that we watch to bring that place to people around the world. And then, Elisa, there's also this educational aspect, again, where they're working with local students and schools to educate them about the wildlife in their communities. And to me, it's really about building a sense of place. And when you share again, empathy and a connection with these places, then you're more willing to work for their protection.
This conservation education piece is so near and dear to my heart and to Polar Bears International. It's a huge part of what we do and what Explore.org and the Annenberg Foundation helps us with. For years, they've supported financially our outreach efforts and helped us reach millions of people around the globe, as well as create all sorts of lessons for schools and kids. And it's so key to what we do. And I have to say too, I love that part about hippos being ecosystem engineers, because we talk about polar bears as being ecosystem engineers. Polar bears are bringing, seals up from the ocean, these nutrients, bringing them up onto the ice, allowing all these other scavengers to also feed on these nutrients. And what they leave behind adds huge amounts of biomass to the environment. So I love the comparison with hippos as well, moving nutrients around. That was very cool.
And I wouldn't have thought of hippos in that way until I heard Fred's message. So that's a great way to think about them. And when I watch them on the live cams now, I'm going to be looking a bit more closely into their behavior and thinking about those connections.
Yeah, love it.
One Earth Day resolution that came in recently came from Birgit, who is writing to continue to teach about planting and encouraging other people to plant California native plants so that California wildlife can find a home, a place to nest, to lay their eggs on a host plant, to feed their young. There's something everyone can do. And I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, when we think about if you're a homeowner or a property owner, that is habitat for animals. And that's the way I think about it with the land that's surrounding me. I'm fortunate enough to be a caretaker and have like legal title over like 15 acres of land here. I don't solely consider it mine. I think it's like I think of myself as a caretaker for that space and try to share it with the wildlife that can utilize it as a home. So I'd encourage everybody to take Birgit's example and try it if you can. And speaking of looking toward helping wildlife in your communities and sharing space with them, let's hear from Save the Manatee Club, who is working to protect manatees in Florida and beyond.
Hi everybody and happy Earth Day. I'm Cora with Save the Manatee Club and I'm here at beautiful Blue Spring State Park. And we have webcams here at Blue Spring as well as at Homosassa Springs State Park. And what's truly special about these places is that in the winter time, they are protected sanctuaries for manatees. So manatees can really rest and be undisturbed and people can observe them from the surrounding boardwalks or watch them on our live webcams. So for me, these places are so special because they're getting harder and harder to find in Florida. There's so many people moving here and some of the main threats to manatees are collisions with watercraft, entanglement in fishing line, ingestion of debris, and then also harassment by people who don't really know how to just passively observe them in their natural habitat. There's a lot of things that people can do to help manatees. If you're boating, go slow and watch out for these guys, recycle your fishing line, participate in cleanups, and also if you see a manatee out in the wild, make sure to keep your distance, don't touch it, and just practice passive observation.
thanks to Cora for that message. One of the things that I got out of that, Elisa, is that it's vital to just normalize, good behavior or ethical behavior around wildlife, whether you're doing that just to go and view animals, like, hey, I want to go out bird watching or I want to watch manatees at a freshwater spring. But if you can normalize that as part of your daily life and part of your community, then it's more effective. We actually have a couple of examples of some posters that our graphic designer Sarah Woolman uh, created about manatees. And these were just, I never really workshopped these with the public, so I don't know how effective they would be. But again, I was thinking about that concept, normalizing the right behavior, making that part of your culture. So you can do that with your lawns, for instance. And feel free to steal these if anybody wants them. If you live in Florida, you can put up at your house or something like that, and boating with manatees in mind. Again, if that's like your first thought when you get on the water that day is like, hey, I need to be careful for manatees, then that's the thing to do. So yeah, Lisa, I think normalizing good behavior and wildlife viewing ethics must be part of our cultures and our communities that we're trying to build.
Absolutely. We see that in Churchill, Manitoba. We work with the Churchill Bear Smart Working Group. And of course, visitors flock to Churchill to see the polar bears, and we want them to. That's excellent. We released a series of safety videos maybe a couple years ago now that we spread to visitors. We hope that they watch them before they come to have good polar bear etiquette. And really, it's just about respect. And if you care about this animal, then we think people will mostly, want to follow good guidelines to view the animal at a safe distance, quietly, no feeding wildlife, all those good things. We want humans to stay safe. We want wildlife to stay safe. And so some of that respect can go a long way. And I'm not myself not a huge fan of lawns, which would make my late grandfather very sad. He loved a lawn. But there's so many things we can do with the yards. Yeah, your space sounds amazing, Mike. And once the snow melts a little bit more, I'm going to do a lot more wildflower planting and really have more of a pollinator space in my yard. I want to kind of have more options for local pollinators. So lots we can be doing for our local wildlife.
Yeah, and certainly, that community buy-in and culture was, I think that was really noticeable to me the one time I visited Churchill. It was like everybody took it seriously. I don't think
Yeah.
that without exception, like I didn't run into anybody who was like, the kind of blasé about polar bears. Like it was freaking serious. So, and it works, right?
It
When the communities and the cultures, and when everyone buys in, like you go to Churchill, you're not going to break the mold there because everyone is is not going to like it, and it's going to ruin the experience for people in the future.
hmm Yeah, that kind of social contract in a way of like how to act. It's good and it's strong. It helps that Churchill's economy is very much relying on the polar bears, but still, it's just the right thing to do. And mostly people that come up are super respectful.
And we're still looking for your Earth Day resolutions. So post those in the comments. You got time to share them before we conclude our program today. One that came in recently came from Colleen, who wrote, my Earth Day resolution is to look for opportunities to build social capital to advance local conservation and restoration efforts. And yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. Again, who might you be able to build trust with? And how can you become sort of like an expert and a leader in that sense and build that social capital so you are a trusted individual? So Colleen, yeah, thanks for bringing that idea up. Maybe that's a way, like if you have an online following that you can do something like that. I'm not really on social media personally anymore, so I don't do it in that way. But that's one way that a lot of people have those skills, at least, so that I don't, and maybe they can help build more support for conservation and restoration.
Oh, that goes a long way, folks that are really good at that social media outreach. I was just thinking there was this young woman we worked with last year, Krishma, the climate girl, and she's on Instagram just doing incredible work, like so vocal, and her skill set is just amazing. It's not my skill set, but I can, talk about her and support her work while she's doing that sort of thing. There's that social stuff is a pretty big deal. Humans like to see what other humans are doing, and that's what kind of gets them going to try new things and to buy into some of this stuff. So it's great. It's really great. Good ideas.
Yeah, we are an extremely social mammal. That is one of, we're not the only social mammal, obviously, but it's one of our defining characteristics as humans. Speaking of social animals, and one of the reasons why dogs are so good companions for us is because they're descended from wolves who share so many characteristics with humans. So let's hear from our partner at the International Wolf Center about their work.
My name is Giselle Narvaez Rivera, and I am the Wolf Curator at the International Wolf Center. I believe that our ambassador wolves make our center very special. Wolves are generally an elusive species, fearful of humans, so that makes them difficult to observe. When you visit the center in person or online, you can see wolf behavior front and center. I've always been passionate about wildlife conservation and human-wildlife coexistence, so working for the International Wolf Center is a dream come true. Our mission is to teach and inspire the world about wolves, their ecology, and the wolf-human relationship. With wolves being one of the most misunderstood species, we work hard to debunk myths and misinformation, and our ambassador wolves help us fulfill our mission that way. People build connections with these animals when they get to know all the intricacies of their personalities, their relationships with each other, and their ecology. If you're interested in supporting our mission, I invite you to follow us on social media, visit us, explore our programs, donate, and spread the word. Share with your friends and family all the lessons you learn from our ambassador wolves.
And thank you to the International Wolf Center for taking the time to share that message with us. Elisa, they're one of those organizations, again, that's working with people in many different places so that people can live with wildlife to mitigate conflict. Because when you have big animals on a landscape, even something like white-tailed deer, there's going to be conflicts with people. That's just inevitable. So while we can't prevent them, we can do a lot of work towards mitigating those things so we can better share wild spaces and the spaces that we call home with them.
One thing we're working on right now, we've had this BEARDAR project going on for years, which some viewers might have heard about before. It's a radar system that is designed to alert communities when a polar bear is spotted kind of coming in. We've moved our current BEARDAR up to Eureka, Nunavut, and it hasn't seen a polar bear quite yet, but it is following a pack of wolves that are kind of coming in and out of this research station. And it's been amazing all winter in the dark. There's staff trying to work outside and there's these wolf packs coming in, but it's been really neat to watch these massive Arctic wolves and kind of watch their pack mentality, and they're hunting hares through camp. And it's this big wildlife. These tools can be used to support people and wildlife living together across species even. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thinking about ways that you can leverage your skills. If you have technical expertise to engineer or build software for stuff like that, like I don't, I can barely use a word processor, right? But there are people that have those skills, and we certainly need people organizing and working in those ways.
Oh yes, the tech people we work with are so phenomenal, and when they get talking, I can barely understand it. But it's advanced what we're able to do for this conservation work hugely. So thanks to them. Yeah.
Some other Earth Day resolutions that came in. One came from USINHAAN, who wrote, the Citizens Climate Lobby is free to join and offers a variety of volunteer opportunities, many just quick actions one can take, like a message to your representatives and local government. Yeah, it's actually, I've checked them out. They're a really great organization so again, kind of leveraging the work of others and then applying that into your local communities, finding messaging, for instance. I don't know if Citizens Climate Lobby is active in Canada, Elisa, where you are, but they are very active in the United States, and you can find local chapters everywhere, I think, in every state. And some states have many different chapters that you can get involved in. So yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah, great show. We have worked with them in the States before. I think they even gave us a little workshop many years ago, but great shout. They're doing wonderful work.
And then another person, Kat Z. K8BV wrote in and said, I've turned my backyard into a neighborhood community garden. I work to help get beehives approved within our city. The city also helps with water. We keep it as organic as possible. Well, that's awesome to hear. And again, sharing space with other people that helps, give them access to nature. There are so many people who live maybe in urban environments who think that nature is inaccessible to them. So if you have that opportunity to do so, please do that. Thanks again to Kat. And then Aiden Rodeman wrote in once again and said, I wish to keep supporting Texas wildlife and pollinators with a variety of native plants. So yes, please do that if you can. And Elisa, you were mentioning how you're not a fan of lawns. I'm not a fan of lawns, but that doesn't mean people have to like completely get rid of their lawns. You can just kind of reserve part of what would be your lawn for plants and animals. Maybe you can leave it untidy, or if you have, like, you're in a community where people are going to frown on that, you can garden in a way where it looks really pretty, and would be acceptable to like homeowners associations and things like that. You just maybe have to, work within their limitations, but it's certainly feasible.
Absolutely. And just being cognizant of what pesticides you're using or not using and things like that. Yeah, you can absolutely still have a usable lawn, and be supporting your local wildlife. And I just want to say too, right, what's happening right now with this amazing community, giving all these examples and then giving other people ideas. Like, I'm already thinking about stuff. This is such a cool example of what we're talking about. Community resilience, building on what's happening. So thank you everyone for sharing what you're doing and what your ideas are. It's really powerful.
And let's, for our last partner video that we want to share, let's head to Costa Rica right now to hear from Toucan Rescue Ranch. Costa Rica is one of those places that has more land conserved than practically any nation in the world, but they still face challenges protecting their wildlife. And let's hear what Toucan Rescue Ranch is doing about it.
Hi, my name is Leslie Howell, and I'm the founder of the Toucan Rescue Ranch in Costa Rica. Our organization is special because we care for all different types of wildlife, and we have every range from like baby opossums all the way up to margays, and we specialize in sloths, in toucans, and in owls. Lots of wildlife here in Costa Rica is suffering from the deforestation and from habitat loss, and we have so many animals that come in that are electrocuted from the power lines. And so we're working together with the power company to make different things so that the sloths can't be climbing on the cables, or the monkeys can't be climbing up on the cables. And we have had to become burn experts in that area. One of the things that's really important to us is community education. And so it's really important for the communities in Costa Rica to understand and to really have conscious about what they're doing in their environment and what they can do to help the animals in their environment to succeed.
Thanks to Leslie from Toucan Rescue Ranch for that message. It's wildlife issues and conservation issues don't stop at anyone's boundary. They don't stop at your yard. They don't stop at nation boundaries. And in Costa Rica, again, they deal with a lot of challenges, even though their landscape has many areas that are, officially conserved. And if you're looking to maybe think of ways that you can help wildlife, again, if you're an engineer and you want to design, road crossings that can get wildlife safely from one place to another, and maybe in Costa Rica, that's something a sloth can climb on. Maybe in the United States or Canada, that's an overpass or an underpass that goes over the road. We need people, again, with that expertise to become part of the conservation community.
Yeah, there's so much people can be doing. I just love seeing all that diversity of wildlife, all those colors as we kind of enter spring where I am. The swans come back. So that's always, I just saw them 2 days ago, and that's like officially the start of spring for me is when the swans come back. And then birds start showing up more. And they're just mostly, the kind of little brown birds. So seeing those toucans are, so beautiful. And again, seeing all this work that's going on to protect these spaces is just really motivating.
We've asked people for their Earth Day resolutions throughout the program today. We have one more that's in my list here that I'll share from Mama PJ Team Otis, who wrote in, another important thing we can do to protect Mother Earth is to support organizations who fight endlessly to stop the destruction of the natural world. Signing petitions may not seem like it matters, but it does. if you can support these groups financially, every dollar matters. A few of my favorites are the Natural Resources Defense Council, Center for Biological Diversity, Vital Ground Foundation, Greenpeace, and many more. These groups employ a lot of lawyers filing lawsuits, and it's very expensive, but they are very effective at stopping bad policies. Yes, absolutely. So, one of the, we can vote for the politicians who will advance conservation, right? But we only get to do that every once in a while. It's not like every week there's an election for your local representatives or your congressional representatives or the president or the MPs in Canada, Elisa. So sometimes the courts are a very powerful tool. So if you have the ability to support those organizations, please do so.
Yeah, they're doing some really great work. We've partnered with a few of them on various things, even related to just polar bears. But again, people, lawyers using their skills to fight is huge. Actually making changes at the policy level and adding our voices to that makes some big differences.
So thanks for everybody's resolutions that they've sent in. It's been really wonderful and enlightening to read and inspiring as well. The thing that we haven't done, Elisa, is shared ours, though. So I can sit here and I can talk about what good I could do or other people are doing. But I was thinking, what good can I do this year? We've been talking so much about community. I know like at the top of my list, it has to be maybe trying to engage in more conservation communities, perhaps in my local area. One of the things that brings me joy is besides like my day job and being able to connect with people around the world, it's also documenting and describing what's going on in the forest near my house. So I'm trying to participate in more bird counts, perhaps more efforts to catalog the species of insects, because like no matter where you are, like virtually nothing is known about insects like they are compared to like birds or mammals. So humans have this vertebrate bias, right? So we don't really pay as much attention to insects. So I'm trying to do that. But also I want to make sure that the banks that I use are divesting from fossil fuels, and if they're not, I'm going to switch my banks. So that's something that I put on my list for this year. And then also I've been able to save, and I think this is the year I can finally get rooftop solar. So I'm currently getting estimates from various companies right now to do that. So hopefully, later this summer or fall, I can show everyone a picture of my roof with the power that's being generated by the sun. But I'm wondering, what are your resolutions this year?
Yeah, those are all so great, Mike. I mentioned I want to plant more seeds outside, have more of a pollinator space. I might add another bat box. We'll see if the first one gets traction. I might try a different angle on my house. In Yukon right now, our energy is in a bit of a difficult spot with a growing remote northern community. And so I kind of want to get more informed about what's going on and have more of a voice, whether that's signing petitions, showing up at open houses, asking for meetings with my local MLAs. I want to have a bit more of a voice there. And then I just want to, leverage the influence I do have in the community and grow it. For example, I've become more involved in my daughter's school and wrote some grants, and have some money to support teachers in building more of an outdoor space, planting local plants, bringing in Indigenous elders to teach the kids about the importance of different local plants, how to grow them, harvest them, preserve them, and grow that conservation education piece, the local plants piece, the pollinators piece, just doing whatever I can locally, while I also work with Polar Bear Organization, our Polar Bears International Organization, and then work with different conservation organizations that are doing complementary work. And just all these voices coming together again is a powerful thing.
Yeah, I love it, and I thanks for bringing up the message about kind of getting involved in your children's school and making sure that that they're thinking about conservation as well, because that's not necessarily something that I can do. I don't have a kid, so if I go to a school board meeting and I start spouting off about something, they're just gonna be like, who is this? Why is this person here? But if you're a grandparent or your parent, then you have that leverage. So please do that. And then also, you probably hear from your kids every once in a while, maybe not every once in a while, maybe often, Elisa, but if they want you to do something, you kind of think about it, right? So if a kid says to their parents, like, hey, let's start a garden, that's going to be extra motivation for you.
Yeah, there's actual research that looks at the influence kids have on their parents, and it is significant, particularly with daughters and dads. But still, all kids, they really have a lot more power than they might even know. So I try to tell as many kids as I can that all the time, that their voices are strong and they matter.
Then one final question for you, Elisa, is what are you looking forward to this year? And do you have any final messages to share for our Earth Day audience?
Yeah, I actually just wanted to give a massive shout out to this explore.org community. At Polar Bears International, we do work with people around the globe, and I'm able to talk to people all the time, and I love it. But there is something genuinely special about these explore.org viewers. And like you mentioned, Mike, there's kind of these different camps, but just broadly, people that care about wildlife and are willing to get engaged in these sorts of things and ask questions and connect with each other. It's a beautiful example of exactly what we're talking about today. Empathy, community, action, and I just can't thank explore.org enough, the community enough, you, Mike, for organizing these events every year. I just really appreciate it. It's good for all creatures, I think.
Well, thank you very much for that. I'm certainly looking forward to learning what I can from our explore.org audience and from our partners as well in working within those communities to make the world a better place. And speaking of which, if you have the ability right now, I just want to share our fundraiser one more time. Explore.org is matching every dollar donated to the Orangutan Foundation International, up to $25,000 through Sunday. Go to the YouTube page for the documentary. Right now, you can, that's where you donate. It's called Saving Our Ancestors. You can find the link to the video in the description for this program if you're watching on YouTube, or in the pinned comment in the chat, or please ask a moderator for the link. So again, think about how you can support your communities or communities that you feel passionate about. Be useful. What is or what could be your superpower? Be creative about it. You don't need to be a park ranger. If you have a skill, there is a way to apply it somewhere in the world. And this can be an antidote to despair. So if you're feeling anxiety or an overwhelming sense of loss because of the state of the world, you're not alone. And I feel it myself. But knowing that there are many other people committed to a better future, knowing that they aren't giving up and we don't have the option to give up, provides me with the motivation to keep moving. Communities are our hope and our future. And our planet is beautiful and diverse, and that is worth celebrating. Thanks everybody for watching today. Thanks to my co-host Elisa McCall with Polar Bears International. My name is Mike Fitz with explore.org. Happy Earth Day, everybody. Have a great day.